It's called The First Time. The first time I saw time bend was just beyond the turn of 13. That sheer fabric broke in the middle of Normal's morning, while June's sun prospected the windows. I slipped through its transparency, found another space not far away, along the rampant creek. The place I escaped, chaos, noise, debris. I was forced to choose, that was clear, and so found a home near rush and stone. Yes, there was a copse. There was water slipping over, ensorcelled by those very stones, or the stones were by water. I rested in that room, passed out of it only when I heard my father's voice, came back home. This one's called Landscape in October. Let us go forth into what waits, white sky, red moon. Let us embrace each rickety breeze as if it were a new lover, all pheromones askew for this right moment. Each heretofore unknown river wants us. Each tree wishes our flight past every rent petal, cold emboldened insect. All piebald horses stand ready to cheer. Why then do we hesitate? Even the coyote running the ridge knows the repose of butchery without reward. This hooped October morning, ground clouds squalling, leaves plummeting, offers its own complex answer. Give over, it says. Give. What I saw. A photograph of a bear hibernating in fallen leaves. Her cubs born in that open. Blind, they nuzzled up to her nipples, fed while she, nodding, curved her thick forearms about their bodies. In this way, and snow floating all among the black mass like stars in a sighing sky, the infants grew. When at last they opened their eyes, their mother loosened her fur, and they climbed to endless morning. They saw points of green in the snow. They tasted the wind. In April, the cubs found the end of the forest. In May, examined the blossoms on the chokecherry trees near the falling wall. When I was cutting the grass, a huge black bird, like the devil descending, shaded the house, the porch. Running, I saw glistening fur, bears, or was it the bears' wings overlapped? The twin shadows of the men mending fence. Another, two more joined the soaring circle, then returned to the ancient woods. This one's called Turkey Buzzard, and if you spend any time in upstate New York, you know we have a lot of turkey buzzards. They just came back recently, the last couple of weeks, and another name for them is the vulture, of course. And this has a little epigraph. In parts of medieval England, after a death, the body was laid out with a plate of food on its chest. A local outcast called the Sin Eater was paid to eat the food, the act symbolically granting absolution. And I understand this custom is still observed in parts of Appalachia today. Unable to lie, the vulture points out truth. He descends to scavenge tread deaths, the fox's spoils. Discreet as an undertaker, he swallows all but the bones. After dining, he stands a moment, staring into the open, stiffens his wings around his torso like a penitent fixing a hair shirt, then maneuvers his earth-ugly bulk up away from his work. End feathers lifted, span eagle wide, the sin-eater transmutes. He becomes the sky's most exalted fixture, an angel risen out of something's last long pain. I moved up here to the Catskills from New York City in about 24 years ago. And I had grown up in northeastern Iowa, which in a very rural area like this, but it was flatter, much flatter. So it's the more I'm here, the more what I write is about where I live. In the city, I used to write quite a lot of poems about the city, but I noticed they also included a lot about the parks. I spent a lot of time in the parks there. This one's called Buck. August, the final Sabbath, the cherished mountain. Against a blousy full moon, an array of antlers. Incautiously I approached. The buck bent one startled leg. I stepped harder, summer's grasses riffling and breaking beneath my sandals. The buck swung his wild, grave head and broke. Earth thundered, dead stems shaking. I followed, but he traveled too far. I turned and wandered below, along the armored garden, its brocade of beets and charred, rustling dry vines, into the tame yellow eyes of the house. The next night I tried again, laid myself on the deer's own slope, in the moon's steady beam, waking to the flawless circle. At times, a star punctured the vault. The buck avoided the terrain. September's sky, moonless, with wind, rain precursing, percussive wind. And this is you've probably all seen this. It's a common sight in rural areas. It's called By the Side of the Road. Bathrobe askew, sash awkwardly knotted. He reaches the road just as the delivery man thrusts the daily at the yellow tube. All night he tossed and turned. Their blankets rested off, rousing his wife. He claims she tried to push him out. Maybe he's right. Other events clutter her sleep. She finds herself settling, becoming old. She limps through the rain as if she were her grandmother. The season irritates. Its damps flute her bones, and she hunches, losing her long neck to the chill. The neighbor's rooster crows, stars shrivel. Yawning, her husband startled by what the glass reflects. His loose face, gray hair lank on forehead. His body worn out, an affront. All day it will come to him, this mirror shattered. His wife, leaning against the kitchen counter, will long for her grandmother's pancakes, a new oilcloth, a round table, anywhere else. Tonight they'll attempt again to be gentle, bypass truth just enough to cross over, kindle remembered likeness. Looking. In the dawn, I saw stars reversing clouds. I saw clouds pretending to be sky, and a jet's plume speaking. This was in winter, in a place where seasons change. Later, when the mountain tilted, the sun shone, but it was still 8 below. The cold helped the snow to stay pure, helped the hills outline themselves beyond my window. The road contributed to the whole idea of perspective, yet I understood how the ancient painters leveled everything, how vision was only an autistic's dream. This one's called The Fourth Beast, and it has an epigraph from the book of Daniel. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly. She stood at the window, elbows bent, plotting nothing. The world had changed, light edged to inference. Still, serene, listening, she later claimed, for the tree frog's song, the odd howl of a coy dog. She saw two great eyes gleaming out of the gloom. When questioned, she faltered. She saw something, a red tail, a pulsing vein. The thing seemed to reel down her hill. Who encroached that smoking land, rode her soil so easily? She ached. The creature halted, lurched forward, and the woman said to the landing, "Now I must go out of light," but her feet would not lift, could not shuffle. In the morning she effortlessly handed the blackness back to the windows which took it. Then, tormented by sudden sun, bulging heat, quartered shadow, she cowered. Evening returned, its sultry touch. An interval. Had time slipped? A voice, plain, friendly. At that she insisted. Her own voice woke, asked, how could 2 feet gripped by floorboards rouse the beast, glare gunned at glass? A laugh from beyond the screen. High night again. The animal crouched in his grim tower. He had leapt up, she was sure, from earth's cluttered crust. Sight pointed at her breast. She tensed and listened, heard no more. The blaze had gone. Wait, she called. I'm coming. Jay and Father in Winter. There, a stellar jay in a blue sky, above a hard river, and clinging to the creature's back, a woman. What's left but dissent? So the jay flies free, and the woman, she sees, lights on white ice where her dead father waits. We know how this ends. The specter withdraws. The woman knocks on every frozen tree in the forest. The jay squawks maledictions from his perpetual sky. Her father leaves again, that bird evicting him, and worse, the woman can't recover those auspicious wings. This one's called Survivor, and it's about an incident that took place, I believe, in Sullivan County. There were a father and a son were hunting with friends. It was early in deer season, and the son was out beating, and the father thought it was a deer, and he shot his son. And when he realized what he'd done, he asked them to go for help. And he had then shot himself. And the terrible tragedy, it was a terrible tragedy, but he left his wife and the other son. So I was thinking what the son who did not die must be thinking. So this poem is written for him. It's called Survivor. He shot movement, November branches, but the dusk he got was my brother, his son. When he saw what he had done, my father used his gun again to join the dead. My mother and I stare at opposite walls, across forests of dumb furniture. Our home's halls are treacherous. My brother's heart, father's mouth detonate as we pass. Mother is constant in her mourning. Through the kitchen window, she sees black trees, sets the wooden table each night for 4, launders father's hunting jacket each week. I tend our fields. I have no father, brother. All I survey belongs to me. This poem is called To the Heart. carve residence in the bear's black body. The bear's heart has devoured mine. I, all my thumping, am diminished, and the bear grows bigger. His seething face has absorbed all the day's night. His clawed paws are as turbulent as electricity at night. Heart, the sunflowers have been extinguished by hurled rays, and I am dead to the day. They told me I would discover morning, but here it is always night, though the walls be red and flowing. Blood moves, genome smart, but knowing not of itself. All its bodies sequenced and thwarted, though paginated, booked and shelved. The bear refuses to read the pages I was, spits me out. The blinded blinds move like flattened smiles in the air's carried currents. Crows pick out, lay down words between light's molten lines. Never forget you. Never forget your thronged face, they cry. The bear is silent, his viral eyes red hot. This is called Want. I realized I have a lot of poems about bears and other creatures. I wanted to be one, complete, a manuscript, illuminated, shielding and abounding in answers. Wanted my spine to be sewn and strung like a Coptic binding, so that those who lifted my cover would see all clearly. No gutter secrets, just words and pictures of trees standing in high-grass green fields. I wanted those old pages to scud like winded clouds, tear like dogs careering after rabbits through tired pastures. No dens, no pockmarked scarred grounds to outsmart any reader. I wanted it all open, and only the rabbits screaming. And this is called Luna for the Luna Moth. Luna, I have longed to see you, touch your creamy green wings, wanted your eyes on me, false romancer. Oh, I stopped for the hawk moth, dazzled by his hummingbird buzz, needling beak, how he throbbed over the purple phlox's honey. I summoned my husband, our guest, pointed out the insect's antics. August thrummed around us. Enough? Should have been. Like the day I made this drawing of my left hand trembling beneath the maple's leaves, awaiting that summer's lover. Ancient heat, long ago. I am and am not sorry. I still desire the translucent Luna, its arrayed wings. Nothing can diminish my need for green. This is called After Watching the Deer in the Trees. Before you grasp the ruthlessness of the Creator, you saw yourself devout as a Jane, feet floating grass, not bruising, not bending, and the plants in return causing no injury. Your body is heavier than your faith, yet the flowers you trample daily spring up without end. Who permits the beaver to gnaw heartwood, withdraws while the woman in the corner crooks her arm, shields her face, who shoves his hands in his pockets as she lies down, is no more, no less than promised. Destruction passes, the deer leaps silently, winter's horizon blurs. Stone and stand. First I was mountain, one among many, our shoulders shoved up, rough. We jostled and pushed, seeking blue, We grew meager from the ceaseless budding, our borders rapturing, rounding down to stippled smallness. Then I was stone, alone. I stood in a green field below a flimsy sky. I was hugely still. There was quiet around, within, just air and I. In time, faces with voices showed, limbs, hands. Grunting, they hoisted my bulk. I said nothing, pondered where they would at last set me down. They broke me. They piled me up with my kind. Now we rest together, screened by trees who seated themselves in our abraded bodies, thin skin, those high, shifting limbs, ours too. We are become a host and one, rooted, riveted. Fingered arms sign our big thoughts in air, yet we hold. Stillness is our wary way. We are grove, and we slowly think, slow we go back from stand to range. This is called On the Road, and it's somebody drove down our road, and it was noon, and there was a great horned owl out hunting, and the person hit the owl, and my husband was driving down the road, and he saw this owl by the side of the road, and he called me on his cell phone, and he said, "Come see this." And the owl was killed instantly. There was just a little drop of blood. But what was really interesting about it was that the owl had grabbed a muskrat and already ripped the head off. Great horned owls, they're really something, you know. And that's what they do. And so he had the body in his claws, in his talons. And so I went down there and looked at it. And the talons, of course, if you've ever seen a great horned owl up close, they're like this steel blue. They're amazing. So I wrote this poem about that. This owl raptured after this muskrat, seized, ripped off this bony November day, the water rat's greasy head. And did the rat grasp what great angel had taken his body up, eyes riding past hooked blue beak, beneath roof arched like a church's, and down mortality's red craw. A car wheeling south completed the act, ravished the owl right out of light. Better than sex, this aborted hunt, more satisfying than owning the wish, granted the love, the diurnal abuses wreaked upon each other. Better than mercy, better balancing all, this blinding end, glinting, quick death. Hawk's reason. When the hawk leaves his tree for movement among the green, when he aims earthward, the air opens for him as if sliced by a bright knife, space disappearing into time's aperture. The nosing gray vole, knowing she will cease, sharply screams twice. The hawk flexes lightning bright talons. The vole's, his wings broadcast intent, close and break like thunder, dimming June's new blades. When the hawk's blazing claws wreathe the vole's rolling body, his gleaming beak arcs toward the fleet heart, and blood's first, deepest drops through blue. The whole sky opens, flameless and distinct. I grew up on a farm in northeastern Iowa, and where I grew up, we were actually sharecroppers on my grandfather's farm, and my grandfather was very old school. He thought indoor plumbing was a luxury that was not needed. So until I was 15, we had to carry water into our house. And this, we had an artesian well, we pumped it and brought the water in. So this poem is about the artesian well. The hefted water was sweet, clear, winter cold all year long, but it didn't freely give up its purity. We kids had to pump it, force shoulders, forearms, then carry the bucket, fingers frozen to handle, to kitchen. That bucket, winter iced, half full, below enameled steel lip, banged and splashed resistant legs, froze jeans to their motion. In the house, the liquid cradled the dipper until the moment the long-armed, red-lipped cup turned and ladled and lifted, broke fluids, invisible skin. The farm's other species, drinking that elixir, seemed pure, seemed to stream goodness. But we children, gulping down the drawn-up element, only encountered a clouded adulthood. I'm just going to read a couple more. This one's called Furred World, and I'm sure you're all familiar with the fairy tale Rose Red and what was her sister's name? Rose Red and Snow White, her sister. Furred World. They passed the bread, salt, and pepper, commented on the weather. Simple food, sloop and slices, and outside, leaves obeying spring, the elm especially seeming greener, fed now by the old dog's body. Her husband's hand buttered bread. He mentioned the garden, uncut lawn. What the woman wanted, her dog back, his constant questing. She loved her husband, but there it was, that woman and beast thing, that rose-red issue, her hand on the barker's back, tail wagging. And the last poem I will read is Night and Loose Strife. Are you familiar with what loose strife is? It's a beautiful pink flower that destroys everything in its path. And so wherever it pops up, people try to get rid of it because it destroys everything else. This sequence begins before anyone wakes. Yes, it is the dark of night, and the walls have closed their eyes. The pillow speaks of other heads, altruistic dreams. The pillow is bent on spilling all its pledged secrets. I, too, may choose to disclose many enigmas, the black dress flowing over the chair's slender ebony arm, scornfully reports, I chiefly enjoy trapping evil in my scenes. The keys in their deep pocket clatter, ring, discuss other doors. I cannot move, neither more nor less. I am held in place by staid and relentless coverlets. The loose strife just outside my window, lazy in its deep ditch, has traveled a long way. It journeys by itself and impacts its pretty pink dress, enough of a reason. Thank you. If you have questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. That's how to get the reading.